Good evening.
Hello, how are you?
Very well, thank you. And you?
Super.
Great.
Hi, Sean.
Hello, Scott.
Oh, Newsy, how are you?
Everybody wants to say hello.
Hi,
Nice to hear,
Sean.
Scott.
Hi, Detective Scott Newsy.
Hello.
We're waiting for the chair most of all.
Am I allowed to ask? It might be sort of a police question since we're not official yet. Did somebody get hit by a car on Newkirk and Rugby yesterday late afternoon? Like 5:30?
I'm sorry, say again?
Did somebody get hit by a car on Rugby and Newkirk yesterday?
Could be. I can't check all the 911 calls, so that is something you just email me and I can check the system and see the reports.
Yeah, these stop signs and whether people follow them or not, and pedestrians trying to get across is always like a tricky.
Where was you saying? Newkirk and where?
Newkirk and Rugby about 5:30 or so, maybe in the afternoon.
Newkirk
Okay, just
and
give me a few
Rugby.
minutes. I have a little meeting. I can update you as we talk.
Okay, if this was just because I just concerned about. I have a lot of concerns about traffic violence, traffic crashes, pedestrian safety in particular. So
That is a
Understandable.
technical crossing. Well, but
yeah.
Well, if there was something that happened, DOT usually does something to inspect the safety of the corner. So we'll follow up. Thanks, Scott. The
course.
chair of tonight's meeting has arrived. If we could, if the people on phones, we've got a 929 telephone number ending in 88 and another one ending in 28. Could you let us know who you are?
Hey, yeah, so this is Deputy Inspector Warner's back. Mine is 628.
Hey,
I was trying to
thanks
call
for,
my meeting away, but for some reason my phone's acting up, so I called you like this.
okay, well, glad you're here with us. Thank you. And who's on 88?
Hi, 3903 is Morty.
Hey, Morty.
I'm
How are
2188.
you?
My last
What?
4. Is that me, Sean? 2188?
Yeah, you're on that's you, Nina?
2188? It doesn't have my name? That's weird.
No, you're on 2 squares then. Okay,
Oh,
that's fine.
Hi, Sean. It's Sergeant Valentin.
Hey, okay, how are you?
Good.
Good. Well, I especially want to thank you. I'm going to hit record in just a second and let Florencia start the meeting. But as I do that, I want to thank you for jumping in with us and just say out loud in front of everybody how much I appreciate how responsive you always are. If we send you something, you let us know you got it. You let us know you will work on it. Then you let us know you did work on it. And then you let us know what happened. So thanks for just keeping in touch and making sure that we're up to date on all of your efforts. And we really appreciate partnering with you.
Of course, it's my pleasure.
So Florencia, we are now recording. If you want to officially open the meeting, I turn it to you and I will mute.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Community Safety Meeting, first for this new season. Tonight, my co-chair is unable to make it. Her name is Hindi Bendel. My name is Florencia Changajita, and so I'll be chairing by myself, but not really, because I have Sean and all of my board members here to assist. So first, tonight we have two presentations. First, we'll have from the our commanding officer from the 70, Deputy Inspector Werner's back. I did see Detective Newzion, so thank you both for joining us, and anyone else that I can't see.
And
Who else
Florency, I think we're gonna let Sergeant Valentin take it away and bring us some updates, and I think kind of highlight the Q team program and how it's going from that
okay. So
perspective.
yes, he's thank you.
It's our pivot.
I'm not seeing. So go ahead. Thank you.
So as most of you, well, some of you might know, I'm Sergeant Valentin. I'm the Q team sergeant for the night team. We work from 5:30 at night until 2 o'clock in the morning. Most of our stuff comes through 311, but obviously Sean knows anytime anybody reaches out to community board with any issues they might have as far as quality of life issues, she'll usually shoot an email either to myself or Detective Nuzzy from the community affairs unit, and then we'll do our best to address whatever the issue is. As Sean said earlier, I try and make sure that I communicate with her and anybody that I get an email from or a phone call or anything along those lines for quality of life issues. And I try and keep them updated in the loop if we can help, if there's, legal constraints that we might have, and see if there are other workarounds that we can get to solve any issues that anybody has. I don't know if you want like specific stories about things that we've been doing, but I believe we had gotten something from Sean about abandoned cars at East 23 and Avenue D. I know sometimes things don't happen as quickly as we would like, but I've already spoken to the vehicle recovery team. I believe I emailed you guys about it earlier today about taking 8 or 9 cars that they saw that were abandoned from a mechanic shop that had been just leaving their cars in the street. So we have things like that. It's usually the things that we address. If anybody has any specific questions or specific quality of life issues that they've been hearing about or they have issues about, I am more than welcome to take down whatever information you have. I'll do whatever I can to make sure that we solve the problems for you.
Are there any hands up?
There are not. I can just throw one out there because it comes up with board members and community members alike. That's like traffic violations, a lot of speeding. We're actually meeting with DOT on next Monday on Argyle. But speeding, specifically drag racing, and I don't know if you could speak to that or if that's more of a question for the traffic sergeant, but that's a common call that we're getting, it seems increasingly.
Sure. So like usually with things like that, as you can assume, when we get a complaint about like a 311 or 911 call for like for cars speeding down a location or driving unsafely or whatever the case may be, a 911 response usually takes a couple of minutes to go through the 911 operator, and then it gets to our dispatcher, and then by the time it gets out to a unit, that car is in Jersey at that point. So a lot of times what we can do is we can do what we call traffic intel reports. If we find that there's a specific location that has things like that happening a lot, we can do an intel report and we can send it to DOT. It goes directly from us to the traffic unit at 1PP, and then they send it over to DOT. DOT ends up taking their own surveys of the locations, and then they make a determination if they're going to put up signs, if they're going to put up speed bumps. There are a couple locations that I did something like that for over on by Kenilworth and Farragut. There was a bunch of weirdly parked cars that were kind of making their own spaces. There was some speeding going down on, I believe it was at East 26 over there, East 26. So I put in a couple of intel reports to have some speed bumps put over there. I've had, intel reports to have them put up signage or put, pavement markings so that the parking spaces are more defined so that people have the opportunity to understand that they're in the wrong location. Those are some things that we can do. Also, obviously, we can have our traffic guys go down to whatever locations you might think that there are speeders going down. We can have them, use the LiDAR guns and write some feeders at those locations to try and help slow things down.
Thanks for that.
It's
Okay.
it's definitely Inspector Warner's back. If I could just add to some of what Sergeant Valentin had said. So everything we do with traffic is very data driven. The executive officer, Captain Winter, so she heads up the traffic program in the command, and we have officers specifically assigned to traffic duties, pretty much like we've always had in the precinct. And so on a weekly basis, any type of collision that we take, it gets run through a system or program, and we start looking at hot spots in the command. Where are we seeing an uptick in collision? Where are we seeing an uptick in collisions with speeding as a factor, or pedestrian struck, or bicyclist? And we start seeing, especially multiple collisions or collision types in a specific area. We'll focus there primarily, and then what we'll do is they call it the 3 E's. There's enforcement, which everybody knows. There's educational outreach, where we go out with auxiliary and other people to hand out flyers and sort of try to inform the community of the dangers of something like speeding or bicycle operation or what have you. And the last one, Sergeant Valentin touched upon, which is engineering, where we touch base with New York City DOT. If there's a specific recommendation that we make it directly to them, and they'll come out, do a site survey, and then they'll look to see if they can fix the problem with, a speed bump, a camera, a stop sign, what have you. But very data driven, in addition to community complaints. So the Q team will take the community complaints, they'll focus their efforts as a result. And then in addition, the traffic team does data driven analysis every week, and they focus a lot of their operations in those areas. And then we also have checkpoints that we do pretty much on a daily basis in the hot corners that we're seeing upticks in traffic.
Thank you for that. And both Inspector and Sergeant, I mean, when people complain to us about, chronic traffic speeding issues specifically, we always tell them, we try to manage the expectations. Because they're like, if we call 311 by the time anyone gets here, and by the time, okay, we get that. But we try to say, if you call 311 or when necessary, 911, it's a data point. Like, help us tell a data story. If you call 311 in real time, then over the course of time, we'll see that those 311 calls are going in the system, usually on Thursdays around 3 to 5, or, you can pinpoint. So I try to manage their expectations. You might not get the result you want as quickly as you want it, but over time you'll help build a data story. Does that actually work? Is that good guidance, or is there a better way to do this?
No, that's actually great guidance. A lot of times what'll happen is we won't know about a chronic location until we get a bunch of 311s there. So one of the things that we address are 311 chronic locations. So we have, like the CEO said, everything is data driven. So we keep records of everything. We are able to run certain reports that let us know how many times a certain location came up, what it came up for, and who's calling. So if we have multiple calls from a certain location, we know that this isn't something that just happens every once in a while. And especially if it's coming from multiple different callers, then we know that it's not just one person who just, hates their neighbor and just wants to keep calling them. So that's something that we can obviously see. So the more the 311s or the 911 calls that come up for a certain location, then we can kind of tell what's going on at that location, and that gives us another avenue. We can focus on that specific spot.
Thanks. Go ahead, Alex.
Someone call? Hello?
Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute still, Alex.
There we go.
Yep.
Sorry, not a regular WebEx user. When the deputy inspector spoke to us at the community board meeting the other day, he mentioned scooter enforcement. In other words, the gasoline-powered motorcycle-like things, not the little folding things that we see lots of kids on the sidewalk. And I understand that that's been a subject of a lot of quality of life complaints. It did remind me, though, of an article I read last week in the city news site, and I just put the link to it in the chat. It was talking about making a fingerprintable arrest of someone for an offense related to scooter, moped, whatever you want to call it. And the thing that's concerning there is that it basically makes someone visible to federal immigration authorities. And I'm just wondering, to what degree do the officers have discretion in that situation, not to arrest, but rather to summons, given the stakes are so high these days? So I'd just be interested in any insight into that.
Hey, it's Inspector One Sec. So we always have discretion, right? So one thing that happens is that, we have our delivery drivers that are out there, they're just trying to make money for their families. That's typically not who we're looking at. We're looking more at the the younger the younger generation. Two people on the scooters. They're using the scooters to commit crimes. They're on a stolen scooter, or they use the scooter and then they like steal a chain, or they commit some type of crime. When we do a stop, I we're looking into what the next step is. There's a host of things that we do, but namely we look at the person and we look to see what's the deal with this person. Are they just delivering food? They've never been in trouble with the law. They're not really the person that we're looking at. Or do we stop somebody that typically is on a scooter and has prior arrests and stuff like that for grand larceny, with use of a moped or et cetera. So when we do our operations, we tend to focus more on the bigger things like that, and we're not like nitpicking on the immigrant class that's just trying to make money out there. But to that end, and I want to reiterate this, that the New York City Police Department, we don't work with the federal ICE officers at all. They're civil enforcement. We don't do civil enforcement. We do criminal enforcement. So short of them being like attacked in the street, and we have to, as we would for anybody that's getting beat up, we don't interfere. We don't provide them records, and we don't turn over information to them.
Go ahead, Nina.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say when, to that effect, when word got out that, going, that especially the e-bike riders going through stop signs and other things like that, that they were going to get criminal sentences. Word got out very, very fast because I bicycle, and just stopping at lights would chat with some of these guys, and they were spreading the word pretty fast. So, and I've noticed that the behavior overall has actually improved. So, yeah, I guess that was a good thing. Way.
Anyone else?
Shy crowd tonight. I actually have another question, just if for the benefit of those on this, if you could talk a little bit about how the Q team is, and then we'll go to Gail, how the Q team is working in terms of when Q team members are dispatched to do the quality of life things versus when they're on patrol. Is it working by sectors the way NCOs used to? Just basically the architecture of the new Q team program.
So the Q team is basically set up. So the precinct obviously is set up by sectors, as I'm assuming you know. So we have Adam, Boy, Charlie, David. We have officers, 2 officers from the day, 2 officers from the night that are technically assigned to the sectors. But it differs from the NCO program, where the NCO program, they didn't want the NCOs actually leaving their sector to address any other conditions outside of their sector. So if the officers weren't there for the day, that sector would kind of go unseen. with the Q team, they kind of changed it to everybody is everywhere. So when my officers come in at night, they may be assigned to a sector, but they go to every 301 wherever it may be. So they kind of work as a team to take care of the entire precinct. When they're on patrol, patrol is a difficult animal to deal with, especially here in the 7-0. It's a little bit busy. So when they have their opportunity, they're usually assigned as a secondary sector auto. So they might get a little bit extra time off of the 911 calls. So when they have that time, they're usually doing the same thing. They're going to try and wear multiple hats and try and address anything that they can in between their 911 calls or something along those lines to try and at least have some kind of presence in their sector that they normally would be in. But there's usually at least one Q team sector car here for each tour. So there's usually at least one person that's going throughout the command and trying to address whatever conditions that do pop up.
Thank you. Go ahead, Gail.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Just a quickie before I ask the question I want to ask initially. Going back to ICE and what was said in effect that NYPD does not coordinate or anything like that with ICE, which is a good thing. But my question is, are you not necessarily NYPD, but let's say Commissioner Tisch is involved or given a heads up when there's going to be an ICE invasion?
Hey, it's Inspector Warrensman. That's a great question, but unfortunately, it's not something I could speak to. One, I wouldn't even know, to be honest. But two, it's just that's not something that we have access to that information.
All right, because I know that there was a big to-do in the city yesterday in New York City about ICE being in the area. So I just wanted to know about that. And the other is there any further update in reference to the crime, shootings, um, body parts on East 21st Street? I think the address is 569 East 21st Street, and the shooting on 2110 Dorchester Road?
Sure. So I'll start with the newsworthy, story where they had said in the story that body parts were found in the garbage bag. So that was that wasn't really true. It was a body, but the body wasn't cut up. It was a whole body. Investigations pretty much had revealed that the victim and then the perpetrator, they two males involved in an intimate sort of relationship. They lived in the same apartment, and they both used narcotics. I believe it was meth. And so what it appears at this time is the victim actually OD'd on narcotics, and then a few days later, when the body started to smell as it naturally does, the perpetrator, who is experiencing a mental health crisis, is not, is one of those individuals, stated that he just wanted to get rid of the smell. So he didn't even see a person. He saw a smell, and he just removed the body in a garbage bag and put it downstairs. So that's the information we have at this time. The medical examiner looks further into like the body and foul play. So far they don't see it, but it takes time for like the toxicology reports to come back just to verify some of this information. But at this time, that's the latest on that particular investigation. The other one on Dorchester and 2-1, two individuals. I'm not sure if they were friends or brother-in-laws, but they got into a dispute in the hallway. One individual pulled a knife, the other one pulled the firearm, fired one round, and killed his friend. He was seen leaving the building by witnesses. They pointed it out to cops that were rolling up on the scene at pretty much the right time, and the cops ran down. They chased him. They grabbed him. They got him in handcuffs, and they recovered the loaded firearm. So great job by them, and that looks like an open and shut case. And then there's no history really at all. So it's not. So we always look for like what we call vulnerabilities. We try to assess after the fact. Did we miss something? Like, is there some preventative thing we could have done? And so, in this particular apartment, had there been like domestic violence history, or 911 or 311 calls prior to that we messed up or didn't get there fast enough? That sort of thing. And with this one, it just wasn't any of those things. There was no domestic violence history really between the two of them whatsoever, and there wasn't any calls made from that specific location.
Well,
But
first of
that's the case we have in those two incidents.
Well, first of all, thank you so very much. That was really very helpful. And I must admit that on the East 21st at 569 East 21st, on East 21st specifically, there is a lot of police activity there, which is good to see that NYPD they're on 21st Street. That's for sure. So I appreciate that, and I thank you.
Laurencia, was there also a shooting response that you were a part of over there already?
Yes, we did. I wanted to say we did do a response today at 2020 Dorchester. So we were out there today with the community affairs officers and the clergy council and a couple of folks that attended the meeting on Monday. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about it, like the partnership you have with the 7-0, and when you do the responses, like who you talk to and what kind of the nature of your interactions with the community members you come into contact with? I got lost in my sentence, are like.
Yeah, so whenever I'm part of the community, part of the 7-0 Interfaith Clergy Council, so whenever there are shootings, our community affairs officer, Detective Newsy, in the past, Officer Joseph and Mosley, but now Officer Jewett, they usually call and let us know when there is a shooting, where it is. And then we usually, I reach out to the pastors, and then we usually go out and do a response. There are times when I've asked members of the board, like Joe Dweck, Hindi, who is, having a family emergency right now, but, though they have come out with us as well. And uh, members from Pastor Thornton's church and other members of the community, when they can, have joined us. And what we do is I've gotten sometimes flyers from we've had some flyers. It depends on the shooting. Like when we have responded with the youth, when there was, remember that attack in by the junction? So we got literature that address issues that the youth face, and we handed that out in conjunction with flyers that the community affairs officer provide for us. Also, we hand out, if it has to do with mental health, I try to get literature for that, or whatever it may be. If it's drug and if it is dealing with drug, this time I did not get a chance to call because of the how quickly we had to respond. But Catholic Charities also has sometimes joined us there as well. And so, yeah, we go out and we speak to people in the neighborhood, and we let them know, what has happened. And, we just want the community to be safe, and to let them be aware. And, and some will stop and talk with us, and others take the flyers or the literature and they keep moving, but at least they're aware. And yeah. But I wanted to ask a question in regards to East 18 and the gang, that shooting that was there, because usually there are shootings over there. So I wanted to ask the Deputy Inspector Warnersbach, and I know that there are there's a shortage on manpower, but because the numbers tend to be a bit more, because there have been uh, a young man was followed and he was killed, and quite a few people have been killed. So I wanted to know, from is it, did they recommend that there be coverage in that area, whether it's foot patrol or cars? What is it?
Yeah.
Because people are beginning to, within
Yeah.
the area that's not involved in gang, are beginning to feel unsafe. The subway is right there, right? And so it's a thoroughfare, the bus station, the subway, so yeah. And businesses as well.
Sure. This is Spectrum One Sec. It's a great question. Listen, like I said, I had said many times, I'm a cop here, my first 7 years of the career. And I remember being on that foot post many a day, corner East 18th and Church, walking up and down to Tennyson East 19th. Like you said, that train station, that bodega right on the corner has been there for 20 years, Um, but when I got here with 250 rookies at the time, and so all of those rookie cops, 250 now, think of that number, was essentially spread out from really the junction all the way down the Parkside, and so we had the manpower, especially with the new recruits, to cover all of these priority posts. Now what happens is headquarters kind of looks at data and they decide where the summer/fall violence zone is going to be. So it's not even my say. They create this zone. They tell me the zone, and then I have to staff the zone with the rookies I get, which is only about maybe 40, and then we have to put 8 of them for the school post. So it's really not a lot. By the time you look at the days off and stuff, and the zone is really more the junction down to like 4th Avenue over there, Region 2 and Dorchester 2, but it doesn't really extend over to Tennis Court East 18th, Church and Ocean, where we had MLS involved shooting. There's Panamanian gang over there. There's a blood crew over there. There's a Trey territory over there. So we're very aware of the gang affiliations that are over there and some of the beefs that are going on, definitely. So but we don't have the foot posts and the direct deployment. We do have, so like every command has their patrol cops. They go out to answer the 911 calls. We have the Q team. They go out, they handle quality of life and 311 complaints. And then we also have public safety team. One in November, they're going to change, just the name's going to change team work, but the day shift is going to be from public safety to a conditions team. The night team is going to be neighborhood safety to the public safety. Just name changes, but the same job is going to get done. And those are my guys that go into the gang territory. They spend their tour there driving around, looking to try to get those firearms off the street, looking to see what gang member they know has a warrant, that we could get off the street, and all this kind of proactive police work to prevent people from being killed, from gang violence. And it's definitely tough work. So, right now you have, if anybody recalls, right prior to Labor Day weekend, in the 7-1 precinct at Taste of the City, they had 14 people shot, 3 killed, and that was a folk first blood dispute. Um, that has kind of pulled multiple commands into it, 6771 and the 70 as well. It seems that this perpetrator might have been a folk member, and he came into this blood A-Trade territory, and he was highly intoxicated too, according to the squad and the video. So it kind of seems like it was mistaken identity, which is not okay. And of course, my cops were literally right around the corner. They were on scene in not even 2 seconds. It's just they're spinning the block. So you spin a block once, and bang, you take somebody's shot. And so even being there doesn't always prevent the violence, but we do our best, certainly. And it's a multi-layered approach. It's not just deployment, but it's also we have our intel unit looking at social media with these gangs and trying to get ahead of any type of violence. We took a homicide on Crooks a couple months ago, and the intelligence team actually caught the perpetrator because they knew they had information that he would have a firearm, and they were driving around looking for him, and they were right there when it happened, and the guy ran into them, and they cuffed him, and they made a good apprehension. Obviously, we would have liked to get him before, somebody was killed, and that's the goal. But it just speaks to the fact that they have the intel, they're looking at the social media, and they're deploying, as a result, and trying to get these weapons and these few that hurt the many off the street. So deployment is there. It's not a foot post, but there's always a car that's in that zone. That's probably the primary zone, if I had to, for violence in the precinct, aside from the full violence zone that we were told about, which is really Parkside. I would say only down to Bedford, but a tighter zone really Parkside to Flatbush, because you have East 2-1 in that area, and you have Tennis Court, Crook, Woodruff. So that whole area, we have multiple cars pretty much every night driving around. So we do have a deployment there.
Okay. Because the young man actually, he went to get a haircut. His birthday was the next day. He was going to be 43, left two teenage kids and his mom. He had just kissed his mom. And,
It was
that's,
very sad. I even in the video, I think that might have been his girlfriend was like holding his head up. He's gonna be fine, and it's terrible when we lose somebody, And I don't know that this victim was involved in anything that he shouldn't have been involved in. It seemed more like mistaken identity, which is just it was just not fair. But we never want to lose a life, even our gang members. We want to save them. We don't want anybody dying on our streets. So just a terrible, terrible incident. But the deployment is there.
okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Is there any way that there could be some police activity, seeing live officers in certain areas, even if they're not on the high list? Because I mentioned 2110 Dorchester, Florencia mentioned 2020 Dorchester, and it was also mentioned 569 in East 21st. All of those are in the same proximity. So while I do appreciate how well East 21st Street is being covered, my question is there a possibility to have just at times during the day? Because even though the crimes are occurring in the evening, when the constituents hear about it, they are walking during the day in concern. So just knowing that from time to time there is police presence just walking up and down that area and around Flatbush Avenue is around, I think that would be very, very helpful. And Florencia, you're a godsend. And we're very thankful to you. I know sometimes you get sick of me texting you, wow, did you hear about this and that? Because
No,
she's
no,
on the case and she keeps us surprised. And I'm sorry I wasn't able to do it today, but I know
that's
you'll add me to your list.
of course.
Thank you.
So back to Warren's back, just about Dorchester. So during the day, definitely, but so at night, I know I mentioned this before as well. 5:30.
No, I want you to do it at night. I'm just saying at times could you also just be around so that folks know that there's police presence?
Yeah. So let me just answer you. So Dorchester 2 are our number one foot post. And unfortunately, with the amount of FPs that we have, that's what we can dedicate foot post to, and then they have to work that 5:30 at night to 2 in the morning. So 7 days a week, though, there is a post that should be or is tasked with being at the corner. Not should be, is at the corner of Dorchester and East 2-1. All right, 2 cops every night. Now during the daytime, I would love to tell you that I have the manpower to take 2 cops or whatever the case is, or a car, and dedicate them, to that corner or that vicinity, that area. But the truth is, I don't. I absolutely don't. It's very tough times with deployment. I just lost about 2 sergeants and 12 cops, and I didn't get them replaced because they took the domestic violence team and moved them to the detective bureau. And we typically pull from a lot of these units just to get enough cars out on patrol. On a day shift, we're supposed to put 6 cars out. Sometimes we're lucky we get 4 cars out. And we are one of the busiest, if not the busiest, command in the city with regard to 911 volume. So I don't have the number, but I know that we have ran it in the past. The 70 has a very high volume of 911 calls. And so there's no way to take away from the patrol cars that have to be out there answering those calls for service. to dedicate somebody off the radio to be there during the day. Now, special attention is certainly done. You know, the Q team works 10 to 6 Friday, Saturday off. The conditions team during the day is 10 to 6 with Sunday, Monday off. So between the Q team in the day and the public safety team in the day, you have 7-day coverage on the 10 to 6 shift. We like them to get 3 cars out per team. They typically get 2 cars out on average. One goes to the junction. The other one is up and down 2-1, you know, and then for the school dismissal and other stuff going on during the day, they have to, you know, maybe break off. But there was certainly a presence there, but I just wish I had the manpower to put foot posts there. So you had dedicated officers all day, but I can't do that, unfortunately.
Duly noted, and just point of clarification, I wasn't asking for you to have dedicated vehicles. I get that. It's only intermittent as it's necessary to have some presence once in a while during the day. And you've answered that question, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I also wanted to ask, who's covering Erasmus now? I know Detective Newsy, was 7-0 part of the coverage for Erasmus or not?
So depending on the time, you know, years ago, we had youth officers and 1 cop was assigned to every school, Erasmus, Millwood,
Okay.
Brooklyn College, Borough. Then we went to the youth officers, the YCO, and they were all in charge of the schools collectively, and they would pop in and visit. Now that they went to the Q team, I only have 2 youth officers, and they're in charge of all the schools. But specifically at Erasmus, I have a foot post that's there, 12:30 in the 1 o'clock in the afternoon to about 9 at night, and they're on Albemarle, Flatbush. They go to Snyder, down to Bedford. They have that whole zone, and 1 Q team car is assigned to Erasmus for the dismissal. So, you know, our big school dismissals are obviously Flatbush Avenue Corridor, but Erasmus High School, the junction for Huddy down on Nostrand, Brooklyn College, and Midwood, and then we have Morrow High School and Urban Dove. So we try to make sure we have a good coverage for all of these locations during the day.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Anyone else?
I don't see any more hands, Florency, and I just want to reiterate thanks to Inspector Wernersbach for making the time, carving it out of his vacation and family time. So special appreciation for that. And Sergeant Valentin for your work every single day, but making time. And Scott Nuzzi just for always.
Always here for you guys.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank
We
all
love
of
you guys.
Thanks.
It's a great community, and we really appreciate everything that you do for us.
Okay.
Thank you all. Thank you.
And thank you.
Thank you guys. Call me any concerns.
Yep. Get back to the kids and you guys get back to work.
Good night.
Will do.
Thank you.
See you on the 30th.
All right.
Yep.
Take care.
Bye.
Okay. See you at the next council meeting, Detective.
Yes, of course. Not if I see you first. Later.
We actually will be recognizing both Sergeant Valentin and Scott Nuzzi on the 30th. So we
Oh.
look forward to singing your praises at our reception.
Thank you. I'm very honored and grateful to be there, and I hope to see you all there. So, God bless. We'll see you guys soon. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Good night. Okay.
Bye.
All right. So we the sheriff's office is not on, right, Sean?
That's what I am seeing, unless there is another number I don't recognize. Is anybody from the New York City Sheriff's Office on with
Yeah.
us? Does anybody want to pretend to be from the Sheriff's Office? We could just do,
I don't think
do a
so.
little.
I don't think so. Sheriffs are very
Well, I apologize for that, and I'm disappointed because it was a tough thing to schedule.
really. Yeah.
Clearly. But we'll work to bring them back. And I don't know, Florency, if you want to talk to this committee about other things we
Yes.
might want to see.
Yes.
Who wants to do what with this committee? We've got a whole year ahead of us.
Yeah, I would like to know what other topics, or what can we do with this committee in the future, right? So if anyone wants to go ahead, you may. If not, are there any hands up? No?
No, we're a small
Okay.
enough group if people just want to jump in.
I wanted to say something, Shauna. I wanted to, so let me run this by everyone here. So recently, as I stated before, that, Detective Newsy, Officer Druett usually apprise me of what's happening. So we do responses for shootings and sometimes stabbings. However, we never do for overdoses. Now, recently, there have been a number of overdoses within our community. As a matter of fact, there was a dead body across the street from where I live in a van. He was in his 60s. There was an overdose case. E16, I think I don't remember. It's further down. I don't remember it was Ditmas, Cortelu, but it was going in that direction. Overdose. So there have been a number of overdoses. So what I wanted to, and then there have been the report. One of the officers today was saying that we have to be careful. And so I'm glad everyone listened carefully, not to pick up money that you find on the street. Maybe if you have to, if it's some paper money and it looks like it's a lot, maybe put on a gloves, just saying. But be careful in holding doors, because they're putting fentanyl that they're lacing the weed with. They're also putting that on monies and doors and rails. So be careful where you hold on. And that is something that is very toxic to us as humans if, it gets on your hand and, God forbid. So I wanted to ask if maybe Catholic charities or somewhere that, because that's public safety. So I don't know if it's human or
Yeah, I mean,
community
we could
safety.
either do it as a joint committee,
Yes,
or we did one time have dynamic.
yes,
What is their or is it dynamic something?
yeah,
They came and did the Narcan
But I
yes,
training
was gonna say,
and
Sean,
gave us
that's
the kit
thinking about
yes,
that.
kits.
Yeah.
yes,
And
yes.
Liz Denise actually brought up at a recent meeting how much they appreciated when we did the CPR training. So we could
Okay,
bring sort of like a CPR, like an emergency response in-person training meeting to the district office,
right,
along with like the Narcan training, and then sort of what to do. What you're talking about is like the more like public safety approaches and crime and what would you call it? Sort of coming into contact, like exposure, risk prevention. And then in terms of a community response, I think I would want to know more if, what risks people might be taking, what sort of like the environment is around people. If there are dealers in an area and then there's public response to that, are people putting themselves at risk if they're, disrupting somebody's business model?
Well, I know usually whenever we do a response, the police is always there with
Okay.
us. We never do it alone. Never. We do it, we set our schedule to align with theirs. So it's usually, as a matter of fact, they're the ones that really call for a response. They have to do a response.
Uh-huh.
And so we go out with the resources like the pamphlets, and what I have found personally is that there are some folks who will say no, they won't take any flyers, but folks stop, they talk to us. The older people feel unsafe and they're happy when they see us out there as a presence, right?
Yeah.
And then others are concerned, and some will come and share, what's happening in the neighborhood. So it's we've never really faced an antagonistic or, some kind of a pushback. Mostly just some folks who don't care for the police, and they will just shake their head and say no and keep walking.
Do you work with the crime prevention officer as well?
Yes, the crime prevention officer does accompany us as well. So it's not just community affairs.
Yeah, he's really good, I think.
Oh, yes, yes.
So yeah, happy to explore this and figure out with Catholic Charities or Dynamic DIY or whatever that organization is.
I can't remember this. Yes.
I want to say Dynamic Youth something.
Yeah.
Dynamic Youth Initiative, DYI.
It's in the
What's-
chat. I found the link. Put it in the
Oh,
chat.
thank you.
Thanks, Carl. Thanks. I love thank you. Yes. So, and is there anything else anyway? And before we go on, please be careful. I don't know if you guys heard about the lady who held the door open, the subway door, and just say, how sometimes when you hold a door open and someone goes through and no one says anything, and she just said thank you sarcastically, and the person followed her and killed her. And then the gentleman who held the door for the guy, and he said, and beat him to a pulp. I'm telling you, we need mental. Can we have is mental wellness or mental, how to deal with navigating within our communities, because we have the guy that's usually on Ocean Avenue, he does is just when you're driving, because
The
he
dancer?
dances.
Yeah.
Yes. However, there are some on Church Avenue. I didn't call it in because he actually walked away. But the one guy was punching the air and almost punched a lady. Another one threw a garbage receptacle. So we do have folks out there. Like, how do we navigate
I
this?
can reach out to like Bridget, Bridging. I can't think of anybody's name tonight. I'm sorry. I must be
It's,
tired, but I
it's
will.
okay. We're all the time.
Bridging access to care. That's the one.
Okay.
I can reach out to groups and talk to them about what presentations they do. I think about this for me and the staff too, because we're in that office and there's not
Yes.
really a safe second means of egress, and we have been in uncomfortable situations when we're in the office solo.
Oh,
And
wow.
there's a couple people we don't let in. We go to the door and we'll talk to them at the door. So like mental de-escalation, and I mean, clearly you just get out of the way and call 911 when you can.
Right.
But de-escalation and how to deal without escalating is, I think, would be useful. So I'll reach out to those organizations. So we're going to be talking about substance misuse and bad outcomes with that, and community response, and then mental health de-escalation, and what members of the public might do in a variety of situations, like maybe role playing kind of stuff. What you got, Gail?
Just a quick question for Florencia. Who encompasses your response team?
Okay, so when community affairs call, they're coming and they're taking what's the department again, Sean? I'm tired too and hungry.
We all have a reason.
Okay. Let me
Yeah.
rephrase
No,
that.
okay.
Who on the community safety committee are a part of the response team?
Florencia.
So that's where I'm going.
Okay. Yeah.
I would suggest that we find a way to get those of us who are on the community safety committee to be a part of the response team. We may not be able to do it all the time, but we definitely should be a part of that.
I
So that's
appreciate
my
that.
suggestion.
Yes. And as I said in the past, I've asked, Hindi has joined, and Joe Dweck. Once we did it with drum.
Yeah.
And right, you remember, and another time we did it on Flatbush. I think it was by Farah's office. We were out on Flatbush. There was a shooting somewhere. It was near, I don't remember if it was Farah's office, but it was one of our elected officials' office. And so we went out and we handed out flyers. We handed out also the DA's office, Nancy, gave us a lot of literature that really came in handy. And you'd be amazed because people really do appreciate the, the handouts. Even today, we handed out um, about sugary drinks and cutting the salt. Those were two that I had left. And no, it had nothing to do with anything because I ran out of the mental wellness one. That's another one that a lot of people really, really do appreciate. Sometimes they stop, they talk to us about their family members that are going through difficulties. Some of them give their numbers to the police officers because sometimes they don't want the police to come to call the police on their families. And Catholic Charities have come out with us where we had to respond on Woodruff. And a lot of people really spoke to them, spoke to them, some about themselves and some about family members. Because a lot of people are dealing with mental issues or sometimes drug, misuse even. So, yeah.
So
Well, thank you.
maybe, sorry, go ahead, Gil.
No, I was just going to say, thank you for that. Please add me to the list and we will get our other community safety members also, if at all possible, involved.
Yeah, we can actually send out a little survey or something
Yeah,
so
I
people
think
can
we should
volunteer
do
without
that.
being on the spot to do
Yeah.
it. I think too, from what Florencia was just saying, let's work on putting together a community response library. So that when we get, I get a lot of flyers and then sometimes I just look at them like, oh, there's just more. But maybe if I'm thinking along the lines of this would be good for that kind of outreach. And then we could reach out to the organizations that have the very specific, if you are struggling with depression or, substance misuse and stuff like that. So we'll try to build that library up that's more specific to those outreach efforts. And then let's also get a list of the kinds of organizations that might go out with you, whether it's, the community outreach in the DA's office, but there's also, like you said, Catholic Charities, there's Safe Horizons, there's a CAMBA team just reached out to us. They'll be doing a presentation at the youth committee meeting next month, but they're working with basically with queer youth who are marginalized because they're not accepted to come and their families and stuff like that. So, that might be another resource depending on the circumstances of the issue at hand. So we can really bolster this, I think.
Yes, and I'm glad you said that, Sean, because today, I had so many things happening, but because this was really short notice, but I really wanted to reach out to your office to ask about if you could somehow either reach out to the Department of hygiene, mental
UHMH,
health.
yeah.
Yeah, and also, because the flyers, let me tell you, the ones on depression, anxiety, pretty much every time those I had so many, they're all gone. People they really like sometimes they stop and they've asked, like who do we know? So sometimes I'll refer them to other agencies that have joined us. And so that they can go there. But yeah, a lot of people are struggling and sometimes, it's them. One lady, it was her when we did at the junction, her and her two sons. And so there was a gentleman, I think AMA or ARA, but his van, he had a tent there. And so she went, took her sons went with her and nobody had to speak for them. They all admitted they were going through difficult times. So sometimes we do have organizations that come out and people can consult with them right
we
there.
also have Oh Hell, that they do a lot of programs.
Now I do.
Okay.
Now I do. So I'm reaching out to them as well.
All right. So we'll build out the list and we'll build up the library. And I think too, reaching out to some of these organizations that have swag, because taking yet another piece of paper, a flyer and stuff like that, might have appeal, sometimes might not have appeal, but like a pen or a little water bottle or, one of those little bags that we all use for our groceries now.
Yeah.
We'll try to I think swag is really helpful in those outreach.
It is. Thank you.
Environments.
We're stepping up our game. And I wanna really thank you, Gail, for, and Carl, folks who respond, and for everyone who's here on the community the safety committee. I really thank you, because we need to have our communities safe. And I'm glad when we join together, you know, Joe and Hindi joining us, her daughter also joined us. And when others come, it helps, because we need our communities to be safe, and not just for us to be having segregated communities, because things filter over. But when we come together, and it makes such a difference. I mean, you have to speak to the people to really know, right? When you're out there, we meet people and they share. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've referred some folks to the office, when they need, for whatever, as I said, whatever the need is, then we direct them to where they need to go.
I want to just say something else too. When you said need, and it sort of clicked in my head. I was thinking about it when Inspector Warnersbach was talking, and I didn't really want to put him on the spot because these are decisions above his rank. But I am really frustrated with the department, not with the precinct, but with the department. I think it's under just terrible leadership. If I can be frank, this is public and recorded, but I just said it.
You're not by yourself.
Do you mean the police department as a whole?
Yes, I think that some of the new policies, first of all, I'm not super excited about the Q teams. We will work and we will support them and we will hope for the best. But frankly, the NCOs was, that was a program that brought the officers, it concentrated them in a knowable part of the community. They got to know the stakeholders. They had time off radio so that they could make stops and they could build relationships. And these Q teams are not going to have that. They're just going to be, they're just going to be generic cops instead of the cops. So I worry about that. Also, they're on patrol. You heard the inspector say it 4 times at least, like the head count is so low. So these Q team officers don't have time to queue up. They just don't have that time. So it's not a great program. And to the extent that it's at least better than no program, it really isn't being managed. They're not being held accountable to what they say the Q teams are supposed to be doing, because they don't have time to let them do it. The other thing is that community affairs reports to One Police Plaza now instead of to the commanding officer. That to me is bananas. That their allegiance is to one PP. So you're gonna, whoever you're trying to impress, it isn't the CO back home. Especially if you're trying to get noticed and work your way up to promotions and stuff like that. So that, and then the fact that Councilmember Farrah Lewis said that she's introducing a bill for adequate school crossing guard staffing. I think that's great. I'm glad she's doing it, but holy cow, why do we need to do that? Why isn't NYPD staffing up? If you see a need, the budget on that has just been flat for years. So I think maybe the committee, we can talk about ways that maybe the committee, on behalf of the committee, can be advocating. So it isn't, I've written letters over the years, but from the lowly district manager versus from the board members, from the committee co-chairs, from the community safety committee, I think it just elevates it elevates the concern. And so if you're interested in doing that, I'm happy to pull out some drafts and have the committee review and then bring it before the full board for ratification, since it's coming out, since the board actually would have to be ratified. But
Yeah.
I would like to escalate, like I keep saying, like, I would like to escalate our sense of urgency so that NYPD escalates their sense of urgency.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you, Sean, because remember we asked for crossing guards at and it's a need. It's not a want. It's not a luxury. It's a need.
Yeah.
So definitely, we need to do that. So I'm on board with that.
Okay.
And yeah, and as they talked about the precinct, you and I were in the precinct house on Friday. Folks,
it's bad.
this is really serious. It really is. It really is. And remember how hot it was during the summer and things were falling down. And when it rained, have any of you ever gone there? We've been there because, and as clergy council, we've gone to do roll call, right? So we pray with the officers before they roll out, the ones that come for the 3 p.m. group. It rained and I never understood. There was mud. There was water down there, seriously. It subsided and left. It was muddy. You're inside, but it feels as if you're outdoors.
Yeah,
It's serious. Yeah,
yeah. It's like muggier inside than it is
it
outside.
is.
Like the humidity
really
in
is.
that building is just like
Yeah.
it's gross.
It's
Yeah.
really an embarrassment that these officers are treated so poorly. I mean, if you really want to think about it, it's disgraceful. It's a lack of respect for them as employees, as professionals.
Yeah, there's probably some like OSHA standards that are not being met. Like they could really make a fuss, but I don't know, the chain of command thing, they just don't do that.
And you talked about it, Sean, that the $1 million that was spent for the assessment, think of what that could have gone towards. Seriously. But anyway, and Carl, I don't know if you wanted to address your assessment of when we attended the QT meeting or not, maybe. Okay.
Sure. One of the things it was interesting because yeah, you and I got to meet the three or four of the Q team officers, right? And so it was good to put some of their names and faces. I'll be honest, I did forget their names, but it was important still to meet them nonetheless. And the big brass from 1PP, they did have their slide deck and they made their case for why they said this was important. But one of the things that I remember was that unfortunately the meet and greet happened on the same day, I think, as our September board meeting. So then that was an opportunity that was missed, number one. And then number two, I remember there's an individual whom I had spoken with briefly at the end of it, and I asked, hey, would the deck that was presented be available? And then that individual told me no, but that, there would be a way for me to find some information on this online. So I searched, and as of 3 weeks ago, the only things that I could see regarding the NYPD quality of life team are newspaper articles that are talking about it. I was expecting, because it's 2025, that whether I use whatever search engine I'd use, there'd be a page on NYPD where I could find it. And I can't. And I think that's a problem because if this is something that was so important that it was rolled out across the 5 boroughs at lightning speed, I would want to believe that it was also important to make it easily accessible for people to find out what it's doing. And it doesn't. And so I'll be honest with you, Florencia. Yeah, it was great. It was great for you and I to be there, right? To talk with them and also hear what they were saying. And at the same time, I still don't understand what they do and the value that they're supposed to add compared to the NCOs and the neighborhood block meetings. I still don't understand the delta. Like I don't understand what they're supposed to do that's that much better than what the NCOs were doing. And Florencia was there. She can attest to this. I asked some of the officers, I said, point blank, how are you? And when I asked them how were they, I said, I'm not asking how your day is. I'm asking how are you? Because I don't need to be an expert to see that the speed at which this was rolled out means you didn't have enough time for preparation and transition. So how are you? And they did that thing that adults do where they smirked and said, we're doing what we're doing. And it's like, okay. It's like your answer is an answer, and it's not an answer at the same time. So, I want the Q team to succeed, but I'm also confused because I don't know what success looks like. You know, I asked that individual, I asked one of the big brass about that because he did mention that they had seen a percentage increase in 911 calls at a certain point during COVID. And so, you know, I said, hey, does this mean that you're hoping that calls would decrease or calls would increase? Right. And if I remember correctly, I believe this person from 1PP mentioned he would hope that they would see an increase in calls because that means that people are realizing to some extent that, you know, this team is a resource and there's things that they can handle. And so therefore word is getting out. Right. But, it's a, you know how I feel about that stuff, Florencia. It's a mixed bag. It's a mixed bag. I wish that team success, but at the same time, I still don't have a clear idea of what it is I'm wishing them success for,
Mhm.
because I still don't understand the value add that the Q teams provide that the NCOs didn't provide.
Yeah, and in addition to that, Carl, because as I said, you and I were there, we asked questions out
Hmm.
loud that we were told were great questions, yet the answers didn't really bring clarity, right?
Hmm.
So we
Hmm.
we still left feeling unclear about what they were doing. And I don't know if you remember that they said, and Sean, I don't know if you were aware, what did they say? Is that they're helping to alleviate the volume of the 311 calls.
I think that
Eh,
they've sewn in some accountability in, at least on paper, in that their comstatting, there's comstatting 311 calls now. The same way there's comstat for majors, there's traffic stat for traffic, and now there's stit stat ballywhack for Q teams. And one of the things that when we were on budget consultation, I said, professionally and politely, I said something along the lines of, you know, I'm not, it's hard to get excited about Q teams when from what I understand, the officers barely have time to do any Q team work. They're always on patrol. And the chief said, well, that's part of the report that the Q team has to do, is like amount of hours on patrol. And if they had a Q team assignment and they had to go to patrol instead, that's in this ComStat that we're doing. And so I said, I would like that metric for all, I would like to see that metric for all precincts in Brooklyn, because I'd like to know how maybe some precincts get all of their Q time and other precincts like ours are only getting 10% of their Q team time. That data has not yet been forthcoming, but I'll follow up to see if we can get it. But it's data driven, which troubles me, because who calls 311 the most? It's sort of, you know, and I don't mean to diminish anybody in our community, but I feel like, you know, the worried well, the people who kind of have time, and, you know, I don't want to overstate it, but it's almost like a luxury to be able to call 311 and have the time to be on the phone and take the time to do it and go through all of the recorded messages before you engage with somebody on 311. So I worry that the data is going to drive people not to the areas most in need, but to the squeakier wheels.
Yeah. And something else that they had mentioned, Sean. So I was concerned because they kept saying that they wanted community involvement. And so we had suggested, well, community boards. How about addressing there? The problem, though, was that they rolled it out during the summer when community boards are not in session at all. So, how much did they want community input? Matter of fact, there was some guffaw as Carl and I we were sent from one place to anyway, that's another story. But the thing that I'm concerned about too with the officers is that where the as inspector deputy inspector Wernersbach said that the the officers sectors that were neighborhood officers, they were in charge of their sectors. The Q team are going all over. They're going to be overworked. They're going to be, I, they're going to need mental wellness when all is said and done. And how much quality, it's called quality of life. So really, truly, how much is lent to the quality really I'm concerned
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, no, I
Because
think there's a huge emphasis on towing cars, and that is important. You know, we complained a lot about the lack of response with towing cars. We really did, and yet so now I feel a little bit like a jerk by complaining that that's all they're doing now. But you know, it isn't. I still think like the noise complaints and
Yeah.
other things are not gonna. It's really about towing because that's so Instagrammable.
yeah.
And
And
I've seen it on their social media like that. That's, we towed 6 more cars. I'm like, we get so many calls a day. 6 is not a big number, but go ahead and.
and so also, Carl, if you remember, they said that they were going to, first they said the commanding officers were going to select people for the Q team because, you know, certain requirements were there. And then they said, oh, the we'll take them from traffic, we'll take them from community affairs, what were the other departments? The youth, they were just
Mhm.
taking, except they did say they would leave youth officers, right, Carl, for
Yeah,
that. Those
I
were the
thought they did
only
say that.
ones that were going to have specific jobs of handling the youth. The rest were, they were just going to pool them. And some of the
Mhm.
officers weren't happy with that, Sean. We were sitting among many officers from different precincts, and they were like shaking their heads and disagreeing and saying
Mhm.
no. So,
Mhm.
but they have no control.
Well, let's
So,
keep a close and careful watch on this as a community board so that when we communicate to the, to higher ups as a committee, it can be articulate and specific in terms of what we're seeing as not working out so well for our community. Unless something turns around and it really does, and then we can be prepared to praise too. I sometimes forget that can also be part of my job.
yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, you are awarding, is it Detective Newsy and Sergeant Valentin?
It's Sergeant, it's the 2 Q team sergeants, so it's Ashraf
Oh,
and Valentin. It's 2 police officers who have crossed over from NCOs to the Q team thing, who just really are always in touch with our office, and that's Josue Ortiz and Mahmoud.
Yeah.
And then the community affairs team is Scott and Adriana Jewett, and that might be it. Oh, and Juan and Reyes.
Reyes, yes.
Okay.
Yes, definitely.
Our crime prevention guru.
Yes,
Okay.
he's always.
Okay.
We appreciate him a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Okay.
thank
It's strange. It seems like strange times at NYPD, and I can't quite, not quite comfortable.
Yeah.
Mhm.
A lot of police officers, we were told, had retired for whatever reason, and so there is a shortage. Not enough rookies, I guess.
Yeah. And then the fact that the rookies get assigned outside of the precinct instead of directly into the precinct is, I keep, trying to think of words for how I feel about NYPD policy, but bonkers, bananas comes to mind again.
Mhm.
So,
How are you training to serve a community outside of that community? How? And we all know this, and I guess, I'll keep it short. We all know that this is a unique community. Our diversity is high. The number of elected officials we overlap with is highest in Brooklyn. The way the groups get along with one another and then within is something that you have to get to know. And socioeconomic diversity, the different, the schools, they were talking about the schools, that keeps them all very busy. The way the precinct is spread out from the district, there's a lot. The thoroughfares, the number of, we've got a terminus train station. That's a big deal for NYPD if it's the last stop on a train station, because it means they get all those numbers. Anything that happens on that line is their number.
yeah, true.
Um,
True. So I would like to know if the next time we get rookies, if anyone from the committee, the safety committee, if are available, if they could attend to speak to the rookies because they meet at your at the board office. So
Yeah,
that would
I can
be,
work with Scott to spread that out a little bit and get more people in there.
that would be a good thing. Just to,
I really like doing that. I like telling them, like asking them like what made you want to be a police officer and what were you doing? You'd be surprised. I mean, I know maybe I shouldn't say what you would be. I know I was surprised to find out how many different kinds of jobs they have before becoming a cop,
Yeah,
and
true.
it's sort of fun.
And why? Remember that one young man that said he used to be on the other side of the law?
Yeah.
But then he saw, when he got into trouble, Carl, an officer was sat him down, schooled him, and he looked up to him. And so he made him aspire to become a police officer. And today he is.
Yeah, that's Alicia Rivera too. Said, her family they were involved with the police a lot because she had a brother who had mental health and substance misuse issues. And, the police would come and sometimes it would be a positive and the cops would be supportive and other times they would be jerks. And she was like, I'm going to be a cop so I can be one of the good ones.
See? You never know. Can work
And
out.
then every once in a while there's somebody who's like, I just wanted a parking placard.
No, so some of the answers, and you all know Sean. She has responded. She's like, someone gave it. Sean was like, "What?"
Well, this is going to be a long 20 years for you, my friend.
I tell you, it's interesting though. It's really interesting.
Well, I'm
But
sorry our agenda fell through, but
Yeah.
thanks everyone for hanging out and having a talk.
we filled in. Yeah, thank you. So, do we have any new business? No.
Anybody?
Well,
Okay.
okay. Hi, Dawn Marie. Great seeing you. And Mr. Plutzker. Thanks, Gail. Mr. Lesman.
Hi, Dawn.
Wahil, everyone.
Yes.
And Nina.
There's Alex.
Yes, thank you. Thank everyone for joining us today. And like Sean said, I'm looking forward to the library, safety library of literature being developed and, just building it out. And if anyone is interested, you can always give Sean already has your email, so you can let us know, and I will always send the information to Sean and she can disseminate. And if you want to join, just let me know. We appreciate it. It's our neighborhoods. It's
That's
our
right.
communities.
And also feel free to jump up to come to the community council meetings that are the last Wednesday of the month usually, because I think the more the merrier there.
Yes.
But if I don't see you at that, then I will see you all next week at our reception and looking forward to that.
To be sure.
I ordered the kosher wine today.
Oh, great.
Good thing I won't be driving.
All right. Good night, everybody.
All
And
right,
thanks
good
again.
Good night, everyone.
Thank
Stay
you.
safe.
Good night. Okay.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.